All right, let's get into this news.
Get down.
Let's talk about what happens when you have money, time, resources, but you don't have any creative juices. When you're making something in spite of something. How you guys doing? My name is Hero. This is Coding with Strangers, and I want to talk about how failures like Concord will lead into this conversation about go woke, go broke.
Beta.
That's such a weak argument. And if that's the way you're placating things, then like you've already made your decision. You can leave your hateful comment down below. But for everyone else who wants to take a step further, for anyone else that's just curious to know how, like, even though you have a dream and a goal and aspirations and you have quality people working on stuff, your lack of imagination can be the downfall of things. For example, Star Wars, right? The outlaw game. You mean to tell me in a place where people have lightsabers and force powers, you can't make a looter shooter type game? No, you can't. Why? Because looter shooter as a concept is boring. But that's what you made. Pseudo made. So let's find out what happened to Concord Studio, what became of it. But moreover, we're going to take a look at this company that had so many L's actually have a lot of W's and could have reached out to their community for help on how to keep it alive. The community tried to help you, but you weren't listening. And this is why the rise of the indie is so important, right? The rise of the indie is so important. Sony closes Concord Studio and permanently shuts down the game. Firewalk Studio will be shutting down alongside mobile game developer Neokoi. Sony is closing Firewalk Studio, the studio behind PlayStation's Concord game that took offline last month after disastrous launch. In a message to PlayStation staff, Hermen Hulst, CEO of PlayStation Studio Business Group, says Firewalk Studio will close down alongside Neokoi, a mobile game studio that shut down, will affect about 210 jobs, Bloomberg reports. And it's so crazy that they shut down this, but Hermen Hulst didn't get fired. This is the problem. Not the 210 people did their job. They created a game. I'm pretty sure Hermen Hulst in their elitist mindset of how to make games today messed it up. But it's superior involvement that's messed this up. And excuse me if Hermen has replaced the person they fired prior to this, right? Let's be cognizantly aware of that. We have spent a considerable time in these past few months exploring all our options, says Hulst. After much thought, we have determined that the best path forward is to permanently sunset the game and close the studio. I want to thank all Firewalk for their craftsmanship, creative spirit, and dedication. Hulst says Concord didn't hit Sony's targets and that the PlayStation maker will take a lesson learned from Concord and continue to advance our live service capabilities to deliver future growth on this area. Apparently, they didn't learn a lesson because it's the live service. Games as a service isn't as cool as you thought. Literally, the most buzz that Xbox Game Pass got was because of Call of Duty being on there. But playing games that are constantly online isn't cool. People don't like it. So I can tell you right now, you ain't learned shit. Concord debuted August 23rd, both PlayStation 5 and PlayStation 5 and the PC, but Sony took the game offline in September 6th, one day after my birthday, after poor sales, and the game estimated have put sales at 25,000 total, and Concord only managed to hit an all-time peak of 697 players, not even 1,000 on Steam, lower than the launch peak of the Lord of the Ring Golem. Firewalk is signing off one last time. Firewalk began with the idea of bringing joy of multiplayer to a large audience. Along the way, we assembled an incredible team who were able to navigate growing a new startup into a team during global pandemic Firewalk was. I don't care to read the rest of this. Mobile remains a priority growth area. Sony originally acquired the German-Finnish studio when it was known as the Savage Game Studio in 2022. The team was working on an unannounced AAA mobile live service action game. Once again, this whole live service thing is not panning out for them. With the reinforced approach, Nokia will close its mobile action game, will not be moving forward. It says Hulst, both decisions were given serious thought, and ultimately we feel they are the right ones to strengthen the organization. And one thing that's super interesting about this is we also got an announcement yesterday that Spider-Man 2 will have no more story-based DLC. So you might get more suits and stuff like that, which lets me know one of two things. Sony is cutting fat off anything that didn't make money. Because the fact that we're not getting any DLC from Spider-Man 2 after getting 8 in the first one is crazy. And you mean to tell me you're willing to cut and throw away this team because this team couldn't work on that? Right? We couldn't make a team that was going to work on this. Like, there's nothing that this team couldn't do. Some of the impacted developers may find roles within Sony's other studios, but the rest will rejoin thousands of game industries that have been laid off over the past couple of years. And this is kind of crazy. It's a few days before holiday season starts. People not being able to have work and find jobs is truly diabolical. But this is called poor mismanagement. This is called poor acquisition, an unmitigated disaster when it comes to acquisition of just greed, acquiring systems, teams, and units just so you can close them out. And it's not foreign to us. We know that these companies will acquire gaming studios and just shut them down. They'll acquire a gaming studio just to make sure their competitors can't use them. We've seen it happen too many times for us not to believe it. So we know that the gaming industry is self-sabotaging in order to make sure that games stay part of their relevance, right? To stay part of their mindscape. This is something that they do. This is something that we innately understand. So now the question is, what does this do for games moving forward, gaming studios? This is why you must support your indie developers. Please, if you know of an indie game that you love, of course, shout out to the ones that made it. You know, there's a lot of indie games that made it big, but there's a game you like specifically. Put it in the comment section below. Put it in the comment section below, the name, where they can find it on Steam or whatever. Because the more support you can give to these indie developers, the better off we will all be. So they don't feel the need to succumb to these bigger companies just to be shut down 2 years, 3 years later, right? Just so they don't feel the need to like be closed down. But inherently, the issue with games like this, and when I saw the game, I didn't play Concord. I saw the gameplay for it. The shooting seemed snappy. The gameplay looked clean, but it looked so bland and boring. It looked like a watered down version of what's the Guardians of the Galaxy. It looked like the cereal that comes in the bag. It's the fruity pebbles of Fruity Pebbles, but it's instead of pebbles, they call it fruity stones because they don't want to get sued. It's the same. It's literally made in the same place. It's just bagged up differently. So for me, I know that like when you have to lean on what you assume other people like, it leads you to make generic shit. But we can inherently say that it wasn't all for the bad. This is a dual controller limited for Concord. This is a DualSense controller for Concord. This, I'm not gonna even stunt. This controller looks amazing. It has an aesthetic. It has a style. It looks distinct in its nature. But this isn't the aesthetic you get when looking at this. And for the life of me, I didn't even realize that there was 3 people in this image the first time I looked, because I only saw these 2. I just now saw her. But this aesthetic doesn't match, right? This aesthetic doesn't match. This color scheme and aesthetic matches. It looks futuristic. It looks sci-fi. It looks interesting. But I'll take this even a step further, right? Because just because the game is bad, you can use their really cool controller to go play a much better game, because that's what I would have done. But we could take this a step further. When we talk about design, it just takes a little bit more of an imagination. This is someone who enjoyed the game but hated the characters and did a free redesign. Look at the aesthetic difference about conveying what you want to convey. So much more interesting. And just from so with the first one, and they solve 3 issues primarily when they do this. The first issue they solve here is character design. You want to make a humanoid lizard cross. You make a lizard more human, not a human more lizard. Right? Did I say that the right way? Make a lizard more human, not a human more lizard. Give him the unnaturalistic hair. Give him the facial expressions and the features that would deem him worthy of being a space gunslinging lizard. And even add a little bit of pizzazz. Make their generation and species based off of real lizard type species here on Earth. Get the Komodo dragon in there. Get the gecko in there. Get a whole interesting flow in there. You had so much. Color design. When you choose to use plain colors, your ability to draw inference in those plain colors is how you do it. Notice the hard dark lines that help you differentiate from one plain color to the next plain color. Notice how that's not possible here. Notice how we can't tell if this is a piece of armor or is she an amputee. If she is an amputee, cool. How do we know that? Wouldn't it be awesome to have some metal deferring parts to show oh, she uses a exosuit to walk? It just doesn't leave much to the imagination. And the reason why I can't tell the difference between the two is because the same pattern is used on her arms and sleeves. The helmet looks incredibly boring. It looks literally like a strawberry. Would love to have this to been a sea creature that can only survive in their natural water from their natural home planet. But in order for them to leave the planet, they just make a suit for it, which leads to a certain level of danger because that suit is their lifeline. Giving context and importance to the suit. So if she is a paraplegic, it's just not because her legs don't work, but also because the suit is her lifeline. Great. Way to show an extra level of context. This is just shit that I'm coming off at the top of my head. Y'all can call me. I'm available. You feel me? But even to take it a step further, I'm a big fan of quirkiness and understanding the junk bot mentality. I think it's so good. You want to show a mosh posh of a dude being built together? You know what would be great? Hey, let's add this one piece that doesn't match the rest of him. But do you see how off-putting that is? My eyes were drawn to this immediately. But if you want to really show that he's like this hosh posh made of random parts, give the other parts of his body significance. Make them color changes that really render your eyes to move from it. Also, and if you can't find, if you mean to tell me you couldn't paint, you could literally have painted this because it is made in the same model as the other one. They're identical. But you got ability to find whatever super high tech camera this is on top of their head. Kudos to them for making this design that looks sort of like a heart. Pull it over to the next one. But give this inanimate object that has no feeling or personality or a sense of it a little bit of style. How do you do that? You give them the god dang Hawaiian t-shirt. You know how many sweaty noobs in their house love this? I have one of these. I'll never wear it, but I have one. But this is from the community. The community did this for you. You could have used this. You could have done this. They gave it to you. The people. So I don't want to hear anything about this game crashing and burning because they decided to have big boned women. I don't want to hear anything about, oh, they had lesbians or LGBT or it was too woke. The game crashed and burned because it was basic. It was incredibly, mediocrely, painfully basic, unimaginative, repulsive, and disrespectful. Because I want to believe there was a version of this where they let out this bland version, and then the next sweep of this would have been a bunch of cool customizable outfits. You should have led with that. It's better to capture your crowd and then milk them. That's just salesmanship 101. You don't need 100 million. You just need a few hundred people to fuel your dream. But could you have imagined if they started off with this and then probably progressed back to this? Or even took it a step further? It's just weird. It's just a weird call, and it leaves and I think the game I'm thinking about right now, where they did the My Hero Academia and the Cross, I think the game's called Valorant. But they had Deku, Shigaraki, All Might, and I'm just like, what a brilliant idea. What intersection of gamers and My Hero Academia fans are there? There has to be a lot. They definitely, and they failed. They failed so bad with trying to set up the microtransactions at the beginning. Hook, line, and sinker. Not sinker, line, hook. But that's just my perspective on this. Let me hear it. Get down! In the comment section. In the description. Like, share, and subscribe. I'll see you on the other side. If you're